I have survived lots of things up until this point, right? And I accept that. And once I really made that jump into accepting that is when I really found like I made peace with myself, and then I could work on the things that I actually could change.
This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
My guest today is Mandi Holden, who has an incredible journey of her own when it comes to personal improvement and fitness, but also in helping others to get to a healthier place for themselves. She was nationally recognized after an inspiring video she posted went viral, and then she won the 2018 Manager of the Year award within the Anytime Fitness brand. She's currently a speaker, a writer, and certified personal trainer who continues to pursue her own fitness while supporting others with theirs. Today, we dig into the topic of self-compassion when it comes to your fitness journey. Here are 3 things that I'd love for you to listen for, and we'll check in after the interview on where you're at with these. First of all, this idea of what happens inside being more important than what happens in the gym. Obviously, that's what we're all about here on the Begin Within podcast, but we are going to really dig in to that today as we talk about self-compassion. Secondly, I want you to listen for the ideas that she shares around hearing voices. We're going to talk about hearing voices, and that's the inner voice that we all have that is motivating us to do this or that, especially when it comes to trying to make healthy changes, making improvements in our fitness journey. So the question, what is your inner voice saying, is going to be really important. So I invite you to tune into that, tune into your own inner voice as you listen to us discuss that topic. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to make a change, how to make a switch. If what that inner voice is saying is not serving you or will not be serving you down the line. We're going to talk about how to change from being that drill sergeant with yourself into a more peaceful and compassionate place that will really support you long term. Here's my interview with Mandi Holden.
Self-compassion, I would feel like if I could use one word to describe what I feel when I hear that, it's acceptance. Acceptance, like an acceptance of like what is true about you. Okay. You know, because once you accept, then you can, it frees you up to embrace, you know, instead of like change.
Embrace as an antonym to change. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like I think when you accept, like for myself, it's like once I accepted that, like, this is the body I'm in, you know, this is it. Mm-hmm. Then I'm no longer like raging war against myself. I accept this. It kind of gave me peace, which gave me the ability to embrace the things about myself that I actually liked, that I could not change, right? Because I had to accept it. And then it gave me the freedom to then start to work on the things I could change, right? Out of a place of acceptance rather than war, you know, or self-hatred. So.
Yeah. Got it. So it was first the acceptance that allowed you then to kind of sort out what's staying or what do I have to
what is
Embrace.
in my ability to control, like making peace with myself, accepting this is it. Like, I'm never going to be in another body. I'm never going to be someone else. I get to be me, my body, and I have survived lots of things up until this point, right? And I accept that. And once I really made that jump into accepting that is when I really found, like, I made peace with myself, and then I could work on the things that I actually could change, like working out and like making peace with food to start making different choices that way. You know what I mean? It just little by little started to change, but it definitely um, was different after I had accepted myself versus like working so hard to change myself out of like a self-hatred, you know?
Yeah. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think that anyone could be successful without going through that process of acceptance and
Absolutely.
compassion?
I think that people show us that all the time. I think that people make crazy changes to themselves and reach incredible goals from a different place. I think the difference is, does it last?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is
Right.
it realistic is it for the long term? You
Yeah.
can't really live in that space forever, you know?
Yeah.
So I
How?
think it's, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna kind of piggyback on that with the question of like how is it different for them? Like what's without that acceptance and compassion, what's happening inside that's different? Like is the self-talk different? Is the way they approach the process different? Like how?
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually thinking of a specific friend in mind who he would have said that the first like 3 or 4 years of his own fitness journey was fueled by sort of this mean boot camp
Mm-hmm.
sort of like mean motivator in his head, kind
Yeah.
of like the opposite of what I'm talking about, that like that sort of drill sergeant type approach, right?
Yeah.
And he found incredible results being fueled by that approach, but it didn't last. It didn't last because he got exhausted with the constant self-deprecation.
Yeah.
I think you grow weary after a time. It's literally like waging war all the time.
Yeah. And
And
someone's gonna give up at some point.
yeah, and you just there comes a point where you just grow weary with all of that, and you
Yeah.
end up having to face yourself anyways. You can
Right.
only run hard for so long,
Yeah.
you know.
Huh. That's interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but as you're talking, I kind of realize like if you're your own drill sergeant, someone's gonna get tired. Either the drill sergeant stops and then
Yeah,
there's no more
absolutely.
motivation, or you give up trying to do what the drill sergeant says. And
Exactly,
then
because it's just not sustainable. And the truth is what I would say all the time to people I work with is, you really can't love, or excuse me, you cannot hate yourself into a body or being that you're going to love someday. It doesn't work like that. You can't like hate and then wake up one day and be like, oh, I did it, I love myself. Like, that's not how it
Mhm.
works. You have to start with compassion, you have to start with love, and that is harder, and it often is slower. It's a more grueling process because we're ready with the drill sergeant voice. We
Yeah.
are ready, but it's like you have to stop listening to the old tape, right? The old mean tape that you've been listening to forever, and instead start speaking differently to yourself. Like replacing the tape with a
Yeah.
new message. But
And
that is hard. That is hard work.
right. I think it's probably different for everybody with the tape that's there and the new track. Do you mind me asking like what it sound like the new language
Yeah.
sounds like for
So I
you?
I would say that the new language started for me with, like, I mean, as kind of cheesy as it sounds, it's like, affirmations. I remember when I first began my journey, I would drive to the gym and I would be like, I love the gym. I love working out. I am full of energy and confidence. And it was total baloney. Bologna. Okay. And I knew it, but it's kind of like the fake it till you make it. And it was this like weird little
The
ritual I
start.
started doing
Yeah.
on my way to the gym so that I could kind of get myself hyped up. And you know what? Eventually it became true, Nate. It became true. Like I started to believe that stuff. And at first, when I started speaking it, it was simply to drown out what I was thinking in my head, which is, what am I doing? People are going to make fun of me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so stupid, blah, 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 all that stuff. And it is like a war you're waging, right? Which is why I say that what's going on in here is way harder than what you're actually doing in the gym or elsewhere.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know last time that you were on, we talked a little bit about that concept of like the most important repetition that you're going to do is the one that takes you from the place of, not doing so well or making a mistake or having a rough day, missing your workout, having a big meal that had a bunch of food that's not serving you. And the repetition of like getting back on track the next day.
Right.
And I have to imagine, as I'm hearing you talk about the voices, right, that we all have. I don't.
Right. The voices. It sounds crazy.
I have them too. So that situation plays out a lot differently.
Absolutely.
Once that
It
change
just
starts happening.
Yeah, just like with, like with the reps, the concept of the reps, right? You have to sort of be dedicated to making that the new practice, the new habit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times why people burn out. They're not consistent with it. They're like, oh, that didn't work, blah blah blah. And it's because they didn't create it as a practice, as a repetition, as a habit. Because after a while there really is, I mean I'm definitely not a doctor, but there is like synapses, new things happening in the brain all the time when we commit to
Mm-hmm.
to doing like affirmations and stuff like that. But it has to be something you commit to for it to actually work. You can't just like tell yourself 3 days in a row, I love the gym, and expect it to to take root.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that takes a little bit of time, but once you're there, you really can reach that place where it doesn't feel like a lie anymore.
Yeah. We covered a lot, and I'm excited. Like, I can't wait to share this. But what would you, kind of now looking back through the journey that you've been through, where would you recommend that somebody get started if they're realizing, wow, I've got the drill sergeant in my head. What do I do? How do I start? Is it with affirmations, or are there other skills or techniques and tools that you've come across that would be helpful?
That's a big old question. I got lots of answers for that. I would say that to like at the very, very beginning to start, it would be affirmations. It would be sort of like paying attention to what you're listening to, what you're watching. Like when I'm driving in the car now, I love music. I'm a little bit of a music snob. I'm kind of like the worst person in my family to go on a road trip with, because I will dominate the playlist. I will judge you for your playlist like all day long. I'm a music person, but a lot of the times when I'm driving around town and commuting, I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to podcasts like this one, like this fabulous one.
Awesome.
But also, like YouTube videos and different things, audiobooks, stuff like that, to sort of fill up my mind with the things, that I'm chasing after, instead of, listening to my own thoughts or, anything else. There's obviously lots of books and stuff I would recommend. Also, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the last episode that I got to be on, but one of the things I always recommend to my people is it's a thing called faucet journaling. And it's a technique of where you basically, when you're struggling through some negative thoughts and you're trying to change that, setting a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and literally just
Okay.
writing, like I call it like turning on the faucet,
Yeah.
right? You
Open
just
it
let
up.
it all come out. We're not stopping for spelling errors, for punctuation. We're not stopping to read and make sure it sounds okay. We're just literally writing. Even if it's like blah, blah, blah. I'm literally writing blah, blah, blah on the page. Mandy is weird. She's making me do this. Eventually, after a few minutes, the real stuff starts to come out. And you can start to kind of like see tangibly, like laid out on paper before you, like what is tripping you up, what is the thing that's bothering you. And then when you've identified that, you can kind of create new affirmations around that. And
Awesome.
literally like 5 minutes of faucet journaling can change your whole day.
5 minutes.
Because
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that something, so you said do that when you're kind of
Yeah, if
feeling
you're feeling
overwhelmed.
stuck, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and because if you're, the thing is that you can say affirmations all day long, but if you're not feeling them, if you're, then you're basically wasting your time. So sometimes if you have like what feels like a blockage happening, and you're overwhelmed and you're stressed about something, but you can't really pinpoint what it is or why you're feeling negative, one of the best tools that I like to use is faucet journaling.
Okay.
Sort of get it out. There's something that happens when you kind of get it out of your heart and onto some paper.
Yeah.
That helps you gain some clarity. And then with the clarity, you're able to do some affirmations and start, listening to a YouTube or a podcast or something, and really then retain the information instead of wasting your own time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
But a lot of times people won't do that. We don't really stop and stuff. We've reached burnout and meltdown mode,
Right. Yeah. I get the sense that when it comes to changing, like you talked about, the way our brain habitually is working.
Yeah.
That there's really no corner of your life that you should leave.
No.
Leave without a positive influence there to help you out, right? If you find an area where you're like, oh, I could get some more positivity here, put it in.
Well, and that's the thing about when you start to change one thing in your life, it really will. It's like a domino effect on everything, which is why, going back to talking about like a fitness journey, right? We're talking about changing what we're eating, nutrition, making peace with food, talking about working out and movement and all of those things. But if it comes down to, in your head, you are being hard on yourself, and that is what's tripping you up. Sometimes the things in our head are sort of connected to childhood stuff, or other kinds of events that have happened in our life that are affecting our efforts at the gym, or affecting our efforts at work, or affecting our efforts over here, pursuing this goal over here. And it's like, eventually all things lead back to the same place. So you can't really work on one area without it affecting everything else, which in some ways is super cool, because once you make a decision to make a positive shift in your life, it really will affect everything positively. But the opposite is true too, right? If we're sort of hanging on to some negativity in one area, eventually you'll find that it's affecting your pursuits in other areas too.
Yeah. The physical world that we have around us is reflective of.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I feel like that's a great place to stop.
Okay.
For today. For this
cool.
time. It was great having you on the show again. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You can follow Mandi's journey at her blog site, mandiholden.com. I'll link to that in the show notes, as well as her social media channels, so that you can follow her journey and reach out to connect with her as well. Well, let's check in on those things that we talked about. Of course, there was that theme throughout, right? What happens inside you, what's going on inside your mind and heart, is so much more important than what is going on in the gym. And the things that she shared from her own personal journey, and now the ways that she's helping others really, really highlights that fact, doesn't it? That what's going on inside is so much more important to your long-term success than whatever workout you're doing, whatever diet plan you might be trying, or changes you're making to nutrition. It's all about what's happening on the inside. So I asked you that question. What's your inner voice saying? We talked about that before the interview. As you listened, I really hope that you had an opportunity to kind of reflect, do some self-scrutiny, and answer that question. Hey, where's my inner voice here? What does it sound like? Am I talking to myself like a drill sergeant, or more like a compassionate friend? And if there's one thing that you take away, I hope that it's better awareness of what that voice sounds like for you. And then, of course, those ideas of how to make the shift. I thought those were so important, of, out with the negative, in with the positive, finding ways to get the negative, the drill sergeant out. And maybe it's like she talked about, maybe it's just journaling. Sit down. When you become aware of those negative thoughts or that negative voice coming out, just sit down and do the 5-minute faucet that you talked about. Just 5-minute timer and write. Get it out. And then, of course, always seeking to find ways to get more positivity into our life. We can't have enough, right? So what might be some of the best ways that you could do that for yourself? Is it other podcasts? Of course, I know you're going to keep listening to this one, but seeking out other podcasts, YouTube videos, the music you listen to, the other individuals that you follow on social media, the people around you in your day-to-day life, those that you have a choice over, who to be, really close with. Are you and are we all surrounding ourselves with as much positivity as possible? Or do we need to do some edits and do so in order to remove some of the negativity, in order to support ourselves long term? Hey, I hope this was a great episode for you, one that will really help you to move forward into a better place. Before I go, I would ask you, please, 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 if you could, on your podcast player, follow this podcast, rate and review it. And if there's someone that you know in your life that might benefit, please share it with them. Thanks so much for joining me this week. I will talk to you again next week. If you are tired of feeling frustrated and disappointed with fitness and you're ready to get on the path to being the healthy person you want to be, just go to beginwithin.fit and click the Join Our Challenge button. We can't wait to support you in your fitness journey and help you to get the results you deserve.